two, one. Hello, all you lovely people out there trying to change the world to the better. Welcome to the Dead Man Walking podcast. I am your host, Repeatedly Dead Fred. I'm the author of the soon to be released medical trauma memoir, The Summer I Died 20 Times. Thus, the name Repeatedly Dead Fred, because that's what I was. We're going to talk about something that doesn't get talked about often enough and something I myself don't know enough about. And we're going to talk about male breast cancer. And most of you will likely say, male breast cancer? Never heard of it. And how is this possible? Because men don't have breasts. They have chests, they have pecs, but nobody talks about men having breasts. But here to teach us about this very important and under-examined topic, we have Ron Rapaport, who's a two-time survivor of male breast cancer, and Peggy Miller, who is of the malebreastcancerhappens.org. Thank you for both being here. Appreciate your time. So, Ron, why don't you start us off with a little bit of your story?
Okay, well, thanks for having us, Fred. And my name is Ron Rapaport, as Fred has said. I really never had male breast cancer in my mind until late 2018. I was in Spain. I took my shirt off and I noticed that my left nipple was retracting in. And that year I had a nasty fall, and I also hit my chest with a car door a couple times. So I thought, oh, it was just healing up and, no big deal. Came home from Spain. It never really got better. Right around December, right around Christmas time, I had my wife look at it and I said, hey, look at this. This hasn't been getting any better. I thought it was just something, maybe I hit my chest with. And she said, oh, we're going to have to go have the doctor look at that. I think you might need a mammogram or something. And I said, a mammogram? She said, yeah. And I looked it up, on the internet, and I see that retraction of the nipple is a symptom of male breast cancer. So that's when it entered my mind. And I went to see my GP wasn't available. I went to see another guy, Doc in the Box. I knew him for a long time. He looked at me, he said, what are you here for? And I said, well, look at this. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, doesn't that look a little strange? And he said, well, okay, we'll get a mammogram. So I did get a mammogram. I went down to a big breast center here in Florida. And that was my first introduction into being what we call a blue dot in a sea of pink. In other words, we're only 1% of all the breast cancer cases. So with women, the chances of getting female breast cancer is 1 in 8. In men, it used to be 1 in 1,000. Now it's 1 in 833. So they took a mammogram. They said, oh, we need an ultrasound. Then it was, we don't know what it is. We need to take a biopsy. They took a biopsy. The biopsy came back positive for breast cancer, and it was caught in the early stages. So I had a total mastectomy on my left chest, and they did some tests on my tumor, and they found that I didn't need chemo or radiation. So now that was 2019. We fast forward to 2022, January, and I'm in there for a routine exam by my oncologist, and I've been checking myself. So I tell everybody, you got to check yourself. And she notices that, like, on the side of my arm, it's kind of swollen. And she said, we need to check this out. So once again, the whole routine, went through the biopsy, came back cancerous. So they took 9 lymph nodes out of my left side, under the arm. They call it an axillary dissection. And this time I had to have chemo. I had 4 rounds of chemo and 33 radiation treatments. And as a result of the operation to remove the cancerous lymph nodes, I developed lymphedema, which I'm still going through, being treated for that. So yeah, men have breast tissue. Men can get breast cancer, and it is no joke. Some men see our t-shirts where they say, men have breasts too, and they kind of laugh about it, but then when I talk to them, they're not laughing so much. So that's my personal story. And it is a little disheartening because at sometimes people do laugh about it or make jokes about it. I actually went to a dentist right before my first mastectomy. I told him I needed some dental work done immediately because I was having cancer surgery. And they sat me down, and the technician said to me, what kind of cancer surgery are you having? And I said, breast cancer. And she started laughing. And I said, no, I'm not joking. Yeah. And so after I met Peggy, I said, after when she did that laughing, that's when that pain turned to purpose. And I said to myself, well, when I get out of this, and I don't know what stage I was at that time, I said, I'm going to advocate for male breast cancer happens.org, which is a great organization. And we can touch upon that, in a few minutes. And I'll turn it over to Peggy and let her tell you her story.
Okay, Peggy, before you start, I have a couple of questions here.
Sure.
So, how did your wife instinctually know that you needed a mammogram? I think that's probably the most fascinating part of this story. Like she just knew.
Yeah, she kind of had a hunch that it might be cancerous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And are you wearing one of those t-shirts that you talked about right now?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I think you'll need to.
There we are.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm kind of
There you go, guys. Okay.
Same
So,
shirt
Peggy?
Peggy has on.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Peggy's a little farther from the camera, and I'm not wearing my glasses. So
Right there. Absolutely.
There you go.
okay, Peggy, bring it.
Absolutely. Well, yes, men do have breasts too. If you have breast tissue, you can get breast cancer. And that is what needs to be known by the world, people. Breast cancer doesn't discriminate, no matter who you are, but it can come on you at any time. And you asked Ron, how did Beverly know instinctively? Well, guess what? We women have been taught from the minute we go through puberty, we better be checking our breasts. And if we find anything, we better go get it checked out immediately. And even if your doctor tells you it's nothing, stay on top of it. Because if you feel like it's something, most likely it is. And we are all our own best advocates on our bodies. We're the only ones that live in our bodies. So if you think something's wrong and a doctor tells you it's nothing, go get a second, a third, a fourth opinion, because it's your life that you're dealing with, nobody else's. It shows here that I am the co-founder and director of the Male Breast Cancer Happens. And that came about when my son, Brett, my second son, I have 3 sons and a daughter. And my son, Brett, was in 2003 going into his senior year of high school and playing football and a wrestler. And he finds this lump. And when he shows it to his dad and I go, well, you're in luck. We didn't have health insurance back then. I said, but we're this year, because all the athletes need to have a physical and stuff to be able to play their sports. We've got a night that physicals are all going to be done. And all the top doctors in Kansas City are donating their time and coming to the school and going to check you. So I said, Brett, let's have those doctors check you. They know everything. So he goes, Mom, that'll be embarrassing. I said, no, just ask them. They'll do it, right? And so he does that night, ask him, and over 7 doctors come into the room the minute he asked one. He says, let me call on my colleagues. And they all look at this lump and they think nothing of it. They just go, Brett, I'm glad you noticed this on your body, but we don't think it's anything. You're just going through puberty. This is what, for 7 years, every doctor we took him to told us that he was going through puberty. So not until the age of 24, press forward. He, for over a year and a half, he had told his dad he was having discharge out of his nipple. His dad shook it off because his dad didn't know anything. But if he would have told myself or any other woman in his life, we know, get your butt to the doctor, something's probably wrong. So long of that way in 2014, that was around end of April. And so he goes in, get him to the doctor, and they do an immediate biopsy. And by May 18th, they're doing a mastectomy on a 24-year-old man.
Wow.
And checking with Komen and other organizations all dealing with breast cancer, American Cancer Society, Komen just told us they couldn't do anything because Susan never had a brother and men don't get breast cancer. And we go, okay. And I reached out to American Cancer Society because we had done a lot of work for them, charitable wise, with the high schools and all that. And the director there, she goes, Peggy, I don't think it's possible, but she says, give me a day or two. I'll get back with you. Within an hour or two, American Cancer Society posted up on their website a 92-page information about breast cancer in men. And ever since, we've worked with them on a day-to-day basis to get the message out, that men have breasts too. Men need to be checking themselves. Brett had his surgery. He was barely stage 1, thank God. But his doctor, the surgeon, became a very close family friend to this day, is still very close to us, had looked at Brett and he says, Brett, you're my 13th male with breast cancer. This is in 2010. And he says, but most of the other men I've treated were all in their 60s. And we do a mastectomy, they go home, they want to forget about it, they don't want to talk about it. It's a woman's disease and they don't want to have anything to do with it. He says, Brett, if you at age 24 could put a face to male breast cancer with the grace of God, my hands, and you get well, would you make me the promise that you will put a face to male breast cancer? And Brett says, just get me well, doc. I will do anything. I'll be screaming in front of the rooftop the rest of my life. And lo and behold, it's what we do. We are all families coming together to bring the awareness that men have breasts too. And yes, if you have breast tissue, you can get breast cancer. So that's where we're at now. And we're going to continue to build this because God continues to bring us together with beautiful families like Ron and other men out there globally that have had and been touched by breast cancer and need to know, yes, this can happen to you.
So I want to touch on a point you made indirectly because it's something that happened to me quite a bit as I went through my various medical issues is, and this isn't to bash the medical community because, it's a system, it's a spectrum. There's good performers, there's bad performers, but there's far too many people on the diagnostic side that just can't think out of the box. They're just so laser focused into this narrow thing and they can't see something and say, okay, this isn't normal. We should investigate. That skill set seems to have gone by the wayside. And if one of those 7 or 8 doctors would have had that original thought, you might have had a very different story, a very quicker story, and a much healthier son. And thank God he's healthy now. But it's just something that whatever your medical condition, you're likely to run into this cognitive medical bias.
Yeah.
And whoever you are, you have to fight through it. You really have to fight through it.
Very
I-
much so. Yes, go
I
on.
want to add something to that for all the people out there listening to this podcast. Fred touched upon something very important. I would say most doctors do not spend any time on male breast health. A man goes for a physical. I've never had a doctor look at my breasts. Never. And, I'm not saying there's not any doctors out there that do it. I'm sure there are, but the vast majority just skip it over because it's considered a rare disease.
Right.
So, it just doesn't enter their mind. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. We're trying to bring awareness out there to every man and every woman. So the women that are listening to this, tell your husbands or your significant others or your boyfriends or whatever, brothers.
Yes, sons, daughters, they all need to know, Ron.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones going to help spread the message.
Right. Right.
I played a lot of team sports from a very young age, well into my 30s. And so I've been with a lot of guys on a regular basis. Never once have I heard anyone say they went to, get a breast cancer check or that their doctors told them. Testicular cancer? Yes, we're told to play with our boys down there all the time and look for anomalies. But breast cancer? No, never ever mentioned.
Very much so. And it's so true that we can't blame the medical professionals because most of them don't even know. There's been many doctors that we've talked to over the years, and they don't even know themselves sometimes that men can get breast cancer. We enlighten the medical professionals. And this is the reason, Brett's original doctor, his surgeon, Dr. McCroskey, looked at him and just said, Brett, we have got to bring a face to male breast cancer. It exists. And we work every day tirelessly to the medical professionals to say, please, doc, when we can finally get our men to go get a physical, which is long and far between. I have 3 sons and a husband, as I stated. And unless you're dying, you all don't go to a doctor. And I get that. I understand that. But when you get there, if the doctors would just check your breasts as part of that physical, can you imagine the lives we'd be saving?
I want to touch on something you said, Fred. You were talking about testicular cancer. And I want to tell everybody out there that more men die from male breast cancer than testicular cancer. And just a little statistic, in the US, we diagnose about 2,600 men a year, and we lose over 500 men a year because a lot of it is from a late diagnosis. So men are sitting there, not going in on time. Now, I know you're in Toronto, and in the stats in Canada, 240 men a year are diagnosed and 55 die a year in Canada. Yeah, those are low numbers, but if you're one of those numbers, it's not low.
No.
It's you. So
I think they're probably underreported as well.
Very much so.
Probably.
And when you make that statement, it is very true. Our Dr. McCroskey stated years ago to us that the biggest problem in statistics on this, when you report a breast cancer case, you report by name only. You cannot report as gender. So if you say it's Pat someone, that could be a male, a female, Patricia or Patrick, and they don't know, but they'll just count that as a woman, not a man. So that's a lot of the problem right there for the statistics of it all.
Yeah. And I also want to say that if it's caught early, there's a high survival rate in stage 0, 1, and 2. It's in the 90 percentile survival rate. If you catch it in stage 3, it goes down to around in the 70%. But if it's stage 4, your chances of survival are only 20%, and that's in a 5-year period. So it's important that it gets caught early. Gets caught early, you have a very, very good chance of survival.
Yeah, I think also because so many people have all sorts of comorbidities, um, the cancer might not even get caught because the doctors are looking at your, cardiac issues or your diabetes issues or whatever autoimmune issues you have, or
Yes,
just obesity and things like that. And that's not to shame people. These are just conditions that we're all dealing with, and
very much so.
I
And
I th- it puts an extra onus on the men, um, to take that extra step. And who cares if it's embarrassing? There's nothing that your doctor hasn't seen.
that's
And
true.
if somebody teases you for 14 seconds, my God, you're a 60-year-old man. Your life's not going to collapse.
Mm-mm.
Suck it up and tell the doctor, give you a quick screen.
That's right. And this is what we tell them. And if they don't do it, ask them for it. And
Yeah.
we have a website, breastselfexams.org,
Mhm.
and it has the proper video. We partner with HCA Midwest Hospitals to actually show you the proper way to do a male breast cancer. Oh, that's not
Mhm.
showing, Ron.
Not
But
showing.
no, but
Yeah,
Okay.
to
it's
do
often.
the do the proper breast self exam. We have it in cards that you can print out. Share there, right there. Ron's got that. That looks good,
Mhm.
and you can share that with anyone for men and women. And we have it in over 22 different languages. And our
Mhm.
regular male breast cancer happens.org website show all the men, their families coming together, telling their stories. You can go read them. We have over 800 men within the website and our global connection. And I'm proud to say that Mr. Ron jumped in, and like he said, he retired not knowing what he was going to do. And he created the part of our men's only group. And Ron, tell a little bit of why you did that and how it works and all.
Yeah, I just want to start out by saying male breast cancer happens.org is a non-profit advocacy organization. We're trying to bring everybody together to educate the world that men have can get breast cancer, and that men have breast tissue. Our main goal is that no man will ever feel alone when hearing the words, "You have breast cancer." Okay. Before this organization came along, men had nobody to talk to about it, really. There was nobody out there. So we have a very informative website, malebreastcancerhappens.org. Everything's on there, the breast self-exam, stories, resources, all kinds of things. So just if you go to malebreastcancerhappens.org, you'll find all that. Now we do offer support. We have a brother-to-brother program for newly diagnosed men,
Oh, that's
where
excellent.
we kind of team up a newly diagnosed man with somebody who's been through the same thing, to give support. We also hold a virtual. I hold a virtual support meeting monthly, where we have a group of men who are welcome to come on our Zoom meetings. We try to get it out to as many outlets as we can. So any man that has breast cancer is welcome. You don't have to be a member of our group. If you want to be a member, that's great. We'd love to have you. There's no charge or anything like that. We also try to get men into clinical trials. We advocate at schools, churches, things like that. And we want to just be the best advocate that your own body the best. And we partner with a lot of organizations throughout the world. And we're on hospital patient advisory boards, and we attend conferences, to educate ourselves, to keep up with the latest information. So that's pretty much who we are.
Very much so. And on the fourth Thursday of every month, we bring in specialists, medical professionals, doctors, people like yourself, Fred, to just tell people this is about male breast cancer, what can happen, what you need to do, what we advocate for. And Ron's meeting, it's wonderful because we do have a private Facebook page and Twitter, where the men come in and can just literally talk amongst themselves anytime, put stuff up on the Facebook page, on the private page, and ask questions of each other. Did this drug do this to you? Did this help you? Did this whatever? And it's amazing how men get answers from each other, because a lot of times, if you have never been through it, you can't give an answer. A doctor can't give an answer if he's not been through it, or she, you know. And
For sure.
this is what we continue to do to bring everybody together, and it continues to evolve every single day, every minute.
And I might also add, Fred, for everybody out there listening, we have, like Peggy said, physicians on our advisory board, where we have the resources. I've personally even used the resources where, say you're going to your oncologist and you're not, you have a question, you're not, comfortable with something. We can put you in touch with somebody in the research field who does oncology and get you that second opinion. Again, there's no charge for this. This is all what we do. So,
and even the doctors won't charge for the second opinions.
Right.
They're giving of their time.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. First, Peggy, you brought up something, I guess it's not so much a question as a statement, about drugs and finding out, will this drug do this and will this drug do that? And especially if you're above a certain age, you're probably already on a bunch of medications. And trying to figure out these drug interactions can be hell. I mean, if you were starting from ground zero and just given a drug, it's pretty easy to see a side effect and all that. So I think that's a very valuable service that you're giving to these guys, where they can, talk about what's doing the side effect, or is this supposed to happen? Because we're all individuals, and, even though it's a drug for a class of men or a class of women, it's going to hit a lot of us very differently. So I think that's an excellent service that you provide. Ron also mentioned that you're nonprofit, and you being in charge of everything, Peggy. I'm guessing there's some fundraising involved.
Yes, we always try to do fundraising, and mostly what we use our fundraising for is to do these wonderful shirts, and we give them to the families and the men so they can wear them and continue to spread the message. We do it for education, and God was so great when my family did this, the website and all that. My older son, Brett's brother, built the website. His father was taught by my older son how to keep the website going. We pay for server time, but that's about it. We have brilliant minds like Ron, who's now a retired pharmacist. So he knows how to go get information for the men if he doesn't have an answer for them. He is amazing on this side. And Brett, my son, he's 36 now with a 6-month-old baby and a 3-year-old who was told he'd never father children because of his treatment. We have proven that the treatment in his case, and a lot of the young men getting it that are told the same thing, we give them hope that no, your life can go on. And there isn't enough information known about male breast cancer. So even what the doctors tell you are statistics, most likely in a lot of our men cases, I told them they're creating the statistics now. And this is what's helping to change the world right now about male breast cancer. So,
they're very behind on this.
And Fred, I would just like to say, this is not an old man's disease.
No.
Yes, a lot of older men get it, but we have a lot of young guys in our group. And I'm talking guys in their 30s, guys in their 40s.
Yeah.
Well, Brett was 17 when he was, when he got it. It's not an old man's disease by any means. So for people out there thinking this is something that a 70-year-old guy is going to get, no, not really.
No, and when Brett was diagnosed, they didn't know what to do. They literally had us, it was right when HIPAA was coming out, sign off that they could hottail Brett's case across the world. to see if any other doctors knew. What do you do to treat a male of this age with breast cancer? Because they didn't know what to do. And they were upfront, honest about it. And they said, we don't know what to do. We will have to treat all the men that we get at that point as women because that's all we know. But we can tell you up front that most likely a lot of the drugs that we treat women with will not work on men. And that has been so true over this last 14 years. You can't just put a stamp on it and say, this is how you're going to be treated. It doesn't work, guys. It just doesn't work. So we're all helping to come together to make change to better the treatment for this disease.
Well, yeah, I applaud both of you.
I would like to add. I would like to add one thing out there for the audience. The Black and brown community is very much affected by this disease.
Very much.
And Black men have a 61% higher mortality rate than white men with the disease, and the growth of the cancer is much more faster and more aggressive in this community. So actually a higher percentage of Black men die than women from breast cancer, and something called triple negative, which is a very aggressive breast cancer, happens at 2 to 3 times the rate of whites. So we are trying to reach out as much as possible to the Black and brown community because this is something that affects them in a much more aggressive manner.
Yeah, and it very true with Ron is saying, and that we're here. If you feel something, don't think it is something. Get a hold of your doctor. That's all we can say. Make sure you go get checked, but also on a monthly basis, check yourself. As I tease, all the partners and everything. This is a time monthly to check each other. If you start checking each other, make it a fun thing. And then God knows who's going to find that for you if you're not finding it on yourself.
Yeah, and when you're checking, just to let people know what the signs and symptoms are, we're talking about a painless lump or a thickening of your breast tissue. The lump is a lot of times underneath the nipple. Changes to the skin covering the breast, such as dimpling, redness, or scaling, or that puckering in that I had, that nipple turning inwards. A discharge from the nipple could be another sign. And you can even have pain under the armpits, or lumps, or a swollen or sore breast. So that's what you're looking for. And again, if you go on malebreastcancerhappens.org on our website, you can download the self breast exam, and it has all the signs and symptoms and everything listed.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and the videos to show you the proper way to do your own breast self-exam.
Right.
We have Dr. Stephanie Graff. She is amazing, Brown University, one of the top oncologists globally. And she's the one that helped perform, showing you how a doctor-assisted breast exam is, but then Brett showing you how he does it on himself. And it's helping to change a lot of what the fear is for men, to think that this breast, because if men hear the word breast cancer, they think they're going to die immediately. And I keep telling them, get that negative out of your mind, because that's what will kill you. Think positive on how you can get over this. And there are so many, they think they're alone too. They think they're the only ones that have ever gotten it, until they find our groups and stuff and they realize, oh my God, this is real. And there are other people out there that can get it. So.
Okay. Well, Peggy, Ron, this is my least favorite time of a podcast because we're just about out of time, and we need to wrap up. So I want to thank you both for coming on and delivering this very important message. I'm sure the majority of the men have no clue this is going on. True. So I applaud you. I'm sorry you've gone through what you've gone through, but I'm glad you're here to share the stories and to advocate for other people. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you to the lovely audience for tuning in. As the cool kids say, smash that button, like, subscribe, share, tell people it's the most amazing podcast you've ever heard, anything like that. This is the Dead Man Walking podcast with Repeatedly Dead Fred, and I hope to see you again soon. Oh, Peggy,
Yes, you there?
name of your organization again?
Remember, men have breasts too, and together we will change the world.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.